Hi everyone, this is the third lecture of week 8, and again you can listen to this as an audio. Again, you need to read the assigned biblical chapters for this week as well as Kugan. Before this lecture, it'd be best if you do so, but certainly before you take the quiz. Okay. As I noted last time, the 10 words or the 10 commandments are found at least twice in the Hebrew Bible at Exodus 20 and Deuteronomy 5. And this repetition seems to hint of their particular importance. Okay. However, there are certainly a lot of other laws or stipulations in the covenant or contract between God and Israel that are mentioned in the Hebrew text. Okay, rather when you start reading Exodus and Deuteronomy, and especially Leviticus, okay, really you can see that the second half of the Pentateuch really consists mainly of these laws or commandments. Okay. Most scholars divide the laws into two types, okay? And again, to figure out how to spell them, they are mentioned in Coogan. So notice I keep referring to Coogan, okay? The first kind of law is apodictic, okay? And these are just straight commandments. Do this, do not do this. Okay, you shall not, worship any other gods before me. Okay, whatever. The second kind of law is called casuistic, causal, okay? And this kind of law is an if-then clause. If your neighbor's donkey falls into a pit, dig it out or whatever, okay? Now, the reference to, we called these stipulations in Leviticus and Deuteronomy as laws or commandments, but this is a bit misleading a term, okay? Because the stipulations, when you start reading Leviticus and Deuteronomy, they're really a lot broader than that, okay? The law covers not only ethics, but really is an encompassing system that covers all aspects of society. Okay, and the laws or stipulations of this covenant really has to do with like an assortment of varied stuff, sometimes proper sacrifice, what's clean or unclean, and cultically clean and unclean. This doesn't mean dirty with dirt per se, but what is kind of deemed appropriate for a deity, not appropriate for a deity. So what's clean or unclean or pure and impure, things to do with the sanctity of the people, alongside, how you should treat one another, relationships within the community, relationships with one's neighbors, also relationship with God, what kind of clothes to wear, what kind of stuff to eat, what kind of plants to grow. So it's just vast, okay? It covers, huge amounts, different aspects of society. Okay, so much so that scholars really argue that the law codes that you find in the Hebrew Bible, which there are lots, right? That they argue that this is not just one law code, okay? Rather, these are many different law codes that come from different periods in time and that were all kind of squashed together, okay? Some even argue that considering how vast the law codes are, it's not clear that they were ever really followed, that they were just kind of ideal, situations, thought up by priestly scribes, right? Who were like, your equivalent of priests or ministers. So they're like, this is a group that would be like particularly interested in how to like exactly order their congregation, right? And so, and what they're doing with the text is maybe something like, if I was in charge as a priest or minister, my congregation would do like this, and it's like everything. Because of the vastness of the law codes in the Hebrew Bible, scholars also disagree as to what logic or reason lies behind them. Okay, so for example, take one individual law, one of the more famous, in Exodus 34:26, which states that you shall not boil a kid, that's a baby goat, not like a child. Okay. You shall not boil a baby goat in its mother's milk, right? Notice just in that one law, how many questions are raised, right? What does it mean? For example, why do we have this particular commandment? Like, is this a problem? What's the purpose? What is the significant thing it's trying to say? And this is just one law, right? And notice that the legal codes, like I said, is filled with lots of laws, right? And taking them as a whole, they raise similar questions, but like bigger. What are these laws about? What is their purpose? What do they mean? What are they trying to do? Okay, and to these questions, you get a lot of different responses. Okay, some have argued that the laws, especially the food laws, are meant to keep people healthy and safe. I think this is the most well-known kind of argument about the laws. Well, don't eat pig. Why don't eat pig? Because they have this particular bacterial, whatever. Okay, they're also cute. Maybe that's a better reason. Whatever. And others say, no, 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 these laws are really about how the Israelites categorized and ordered their world, right? And so one famous argument is that these food laws have to do with things that are considered disordered or things that are considered ordered. So why does one eat fish but not eat a crab? Well, crab are like disordered fish, right? They're like fish but are not like good correct fish, right? They live in the ocean, but they don't have gills. Okay, so that's another explanation. Okay, others say no, 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 it's not about that. The laws as well are kind of identity markers. It's a way to differentiate Israelites from their Canaanite neighbors. Okay, so maybe like the Canaanites were, I don't know, enjoying stew where they cook goats in milk. I don't know. I mean, we do that sometimes, right? Chicken and whatever. Okay. Again, we don't know because the law codes in the text are so vast. And so the problem with all these explanations is, these explanations might explain part of the legal code, some laws. It's just that no explanation has been found that explains all the various laws. Why? Because there's so many different kinds. Okay. Now, unfortunately, not being able to understand the reason or logic behind such an enormous and varied compilations of laws and stipulations is deeply problematic, especially if you are a faithful follower of the religion that emerges out of the Hebrew Bible, that is Judaism. Okay, if you are a faithful follower of this religion that emerges out of the Hebrew text, you, despite living in the modern world, vastly different from the ancient one, well, you still need to know how to follow these laws, right? Why? Because this is a part of the covenant that you and your ancestor made with your God. This is how you show that you worship and care and love this deity. Okay? You can't just like claim that you love God just inside, right? That's what Christians do. Okay. However, not only is the purpose or meaning of this law, let's take again, you shall not boil a baby goat in his mother's milk. Not only is that obscure, but how to enact this law in the modern world, well, this is really tricky in a world where we don't eat too many baby goats, as far as I know, at least not in this country, or eat them like in milk. I don't know, we put cheese on everything. So it's hard to know how to translate this law, okay? Take another law. Let's take the commandment to keep the Sabbath, right, which seems to be very important because you have 2 reiterations of it. In order to obey this commandment now, right, you have to figure out certain things, right? So, like, for example, what is rest in contrast to work? What is work? Is driving or walking work? Is cooking something work? What's work? Right? Is me making this video work? Okay. Where does the work end and the rest begin? Okay, if you're a parent, does your rest ever begin? Okay, so what this means is that if you're a current modern follower of the religion that comes out of the Hebrew Bible, these laws, which are at the heart of the covenant between you, your community, and God, you need to translate and interpret them. Okay, which is what the rabbis or a very specific group of authoritative rabbis do. Okay, these rabbinical authoritative bodies, they interpret these laws to try to get at the heart, the meaning of these laws, so that they can be translated into the modern context. So this law about the goat or the baby goat and the milk, for example, as a kind of applied in the modern world, this is translated or interpreted as about the not mixing of dairy and milk. Okay. In terms of the food laws in the modern context, those foods that are allowed or in line with the food laws are deemed kosher, which comes from the Hebrew word kasher, to be right or fit. Okay, those that are not in line with the laws are deemed treif or torn from the Hebrew word terefa, to be torn. Okay, now that's Judaism's or particular Judaic sect's reaction to these laws. Christians, of course, which in its origins is a Judaic sect, honestly. And now Christians have reacted to this vast system of laws that they've inherited in the Hebrew Bible in a very different direction, or a very different way. Okay, by simply doing away with them. Okay, so and sometimes what they'll do, Christians, they use that weird dream that Peter has to say, well, we don't need to do this stuff anymore. Okay, but this is also, if you think about it, deeply problematic. Okay, notice that the laws are vast and all-encompassing. Okay, notice that the laws in Deuteronomy, Leviticus, Exodus are not just about the food you eat, right? Which is what the dream of Peter pertained to only. Okay, rather these laws govern everything. Okay, why? For what good reason do we Christians get to pick some laws to obey, like the 10 Commandments? And even there, we don't really like this honoring mother, father bit much. Okay, and yet declare other laws as unfollowable or not necessary to follow. Okay, if Christians maintain that they too are the followers of the God of the Hebrew Bible, and they do, okay, as they adopted the Hebrew Bible into their canon and excommunicated those who argue that we just need to chuck the Old Testament Hebrew Bible out, like Marcion, so we got rid of those guys. And if we say, if Christians maintain that they're the followers of the God of the Hebrew Bible, then why is it okay for us to ignore most of the stuff that God commands us to do in the second half of the Torah or the Pentateuch? Okay. Seems a little hypocritical. Okay. And at this point, you're going to say, well, Suzie, because of grace. Yeah, grace. Okay. But using grace, as a way to get out of doing any activity or action that God explicitly tells you to do in a holy canonical book, it's not really grace, is it? It's like cheap grace, maybe, probably better known as an excuse to get out of doing something you don't want to do. And notice, it's not like all or nothing. Grace can coexist with doing and following, doing activities that God commands you to do, right? Grace simply means that you're not going to do everything super well, okay, or perfectly, okay? And I mean, considering that the laws are ancient, right, it pretty much ensures that when we keep the laws, right, that we're not going to do it perfectly. So grace is always included, okay? It just means that, just because you can't do something perfectly, it doesn't mean you shouldn't try to do that at all, right? But yet this is how it's usually interpreted in Christianity. And not only that, it's interpreted as kind of an improvement, okay? The reality is that Christianity is really a simpler, much lazier faith, okay? And so we privilege the easiest things to do, like belief or grace as a result, okay? In short, Christians do not follow or try to follow the laws in the Hebrew Bible generally because it's hard to do so, right? Well, rather, we just keep talking about grace and stereotyping Jews as though, oh, those guys were so obsessed with doing stuff and following God's law and such. Okay? While us Christians, we're better because we just believe, right? And I get it. We keep saying that, right, so that we can make ourselves feel better about the fact that we have in our canon a vast body of texts that directly state that we should be doing stuff if we truly claim to love and follow God. And we need a big excuse as to why we don't do anything. Okay, we still need to claim that we love God and yet do the littlest possible. Okay, now you may be thinking that at this point I'm advocating a return to these laws. I am not. As I keep saying, the laws are vast, almost overwhelming. Some of them are super weird, right? Like laws that say you have to do a timeout when you're on your menstrual cycle, or that you have to marry your rapist. I mean, not every one of these laws are good laws. These are ancient, and they may not. Some of them fit modern times. Okay. I'm just simply saying, however, it is not right for Christians to keep yelling about how Christians are saved by grace while Jews are enslaved by the law. You can't say that crap either. Okay, I know some of that crap is in the New Testament, unfortunately. Rather, if you read the law codes, what is clear, especially in Deuteronomy, is that it is only by following God's laws, that is doing what God tells you to do, that you agree to, that you love God. Indeed, the Hebrew word for love, ahav or ahava, is found the most times in Deuteronomy, which is a law code. Okay? In short, according to the biblical text, love is not simply a feeling, something internal, something that pertains only to you and what's going on inside of you. Okay, rather it states that you cannot really say you love God if you do not do anything. Okay, if you do not serve God, if you do not serve your community, if you do not intercede, if you do nothing, it is pretty clear from the Hebrew Bible, you do not love God. Okay, there is no love without activity, without action, without service. Okay, and the Hebrew Bible claims that no amount of grace can really get you out of that.